Hi everyone, welcome to the Wannabe Grandma. Today I'm making my hand-embroidered Bundle of Roses card. This project is perfect for hand embroidery beginners and uses your Cricut Maker or Embroidered 2. Design Space files are linked below for happy birthday, thank you, congratulations, and happy Mother's Day. To get started, you'll need your Cricut machine, a 12-inch by 12-inch piece of colored cardstock, a letter-sized piece of white cardstock, fabric, 6-strand embroidery floss, a 4-inch embroidery hoop, embroidery needles, and embroidery scissors. You'll also need Heat and Bond light, sewing scissors, a fine point Cricut pen, and foil for your foil quill. If you don't have a foil quill, don't worry, you can use a metallic Cricut pen. Other optional but useful supplies include a weeding tool, hairspray, and spray adhesive. All of the supplies I used are linked on my blog post, which you can find in the video description. Select the Design Space link of your choice and cut the white piece from your white cardstock. I like to use the blue light grip mat to cut cardstock. One other tip is to use the poster board setting if your cardstock is thick. I get clean cuts 100% of the time for non-intricate cuts. The black outline on the white paper is a guide you'll use later for attaching your fabric. Once you finish the cut, remove the paper from the mat and fold it in half using the scoring line. Next, place your colored paper on your mat, load your preheated standard size foil quill into your Cricut, and attach your foil to your paper using washi tape. For this project, I cut a 2-inch by 6-inch piece of foil and attached it at the 7-inch guide on my mat. Be sure that the washi doesn't overlap the foil too much or it'll interfere with your writing. I try to sneakily peel my foil away as the Cricut prepares to cut, but this is definitely optional. When you're done, brush the excess powder left by the foil away. Fold the card on the scored line and save the center oval for a later step. Cut a piece of fabric that is at least a 6.5-inch square. Iron it and adhere it to your pink fabric mat using a brayer. If you don't have a brayer, you can use a rolling pin. It is important that you get the fabric to adhere well to the mat for your embroidery design to draw correctly. If you're using the Maker, my Design Space file will cut a 6-inch square for you with the design perfectly centered. If you're using an Embroidered 2, you can either apply interfacing to your fabric and cut it with the bonded fabric blade, or you can pre-cut your fabric to a 6-inch square and only use your Cricut to draw the embroidery design. If you choose this option, be sure to detach the writing layer from the cut layer in Design Space and center the embroidery design on your fabric using Snap Mat. Place your fabric into the embroidery hoop by first lining your design up over the inner hoop. Then place the outer hoop on top and tighten the screw. You want to make sure that your fabric is taut but not pulled so tightly that the design is askew or the fabric is damaged. Now you're ready to embroider. Starting with the leaves, stitch one big stitch from the inside corner of the design guide to its outside tip. Then, starting from the outside tip, stitch one stitch next to your first stitch that goes from the outside guideline to about halfway down the center guideline. Continue these stitches, alternating between each side of the guideline and placing the bottom of each stitch below the previous one on that side. Repeat until you've covered the entire leaf guide and then each of the leaves. Keeping your knots towards the center for this whole project will help ensure that they don't show on the card. Next, use your center colored embroidery floss to fill up the centers. I've shown what I like to call a faux French knot because it's beginner friendly. If you're brave and or experienced, you can go ahead and do a real French knot. For this stitch, you're going to start on the center circle guideline and make a small loop. Then you bring your needle up slightly more towards the center of the flower and thread it through your loop. Complete your stitch by stitching back down near where you had come back to go through the loop. Fill each of the flower center guidelines with these stitches until you've covered each of the center circles. For the flowers, first cover each of the 5 guidelines that look like wheel spokes with a big stitch. Then bring your needle up between two of the stitches near the center of the flower. To create the flower, weave your floss over and under the 5 original stitches, alternating going over and under. Continue weaving until you have formed a flower that covers all the guidelines. When you're satisfied with your flower, insert your needle diagonally under the flower and tie off your end. Next, remove your fabric from the embroidery hoop and iron out the indents. Turn off your iron steam and apply a piece of heat and bond light to the back of your design by placing the paper side up and ironing for a few seconds. Let it cool, remove the paper, and then cut out your design using the oval guideline. Adhere your fabric piece to your card by placing it inside the guideline on the white paper. Iron without steam on both sides until it is attached. In order to prevent warping, I use a relatively heavy white cardstock. After ironing, your flowers have probably lost some of their dimension, so I use my weeding tool to lightly pull the threads up. When I'm satisfied with how the flowers look, I apply a light coating of hairspray. This helps ensure that the flowers will stay how I want them in the mail. Finally, use the scrap oval that you cut from your colored cardstock to protect your embroidery design and spray it with spray adhesive. Attach the white insert to the middle of your colored cardstock and you're all done. Thanks for watching. Be sure to find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest at The Wannabe Grandma and subscribe here so you don't miss any other great projects. If you have any ideas of videos you'd like to see, leave them in the comments. See you next time!